Hello and welcome back to Dukas Copy TV. Now, Japan is the topic today. Tomorrow we could see a slight change in the Bank of Japan's monetary policy measures, although of course we'll have to wait to the actual meeting tomorrow itself before we find this out. However, today in the studio we're going to be looking at Japan and of course the Bank of Japan. And in the studio I have Jean-Pierre Joly, who is the Programme Director of Banking and Financial Services at UBIS University. Jean-Pierre, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Let's look at Japan's incoming Conservative government. It's led by Shinzo Abe. Now, today we heard that the incoming government wants to launch a $118 billion stimulus package for the country. Is this all that's needed to kickstart the economy?
Well, there were very few choices left to the government, whatever government, in Japan. The two measures which could have an impact on this difficult economic situation of Japan were, on the first hand, devaluation of the yen, but which is a measure which not only depends on the decisions of the government, because the markets have also their word to say. And on the second hand is what has been decided is the package to stimulate the economy. And in this sense, I think this is what the financial world was waiting for.
Some analysts have criticised this idea that it might actually be too expensive for the Bank of Japan and for the country itself to announce such a high stimulus measure, especially when you compare it to, say, government spending and public debt. Can this package be achieved? And if so, do you think it will actually change anything?
Personally, I think that the financing of the package will be no problem, because Japan has a tradition of financing its debt domestically. And I think that the citizens and the institutions, again, will put their trust in the debt issued by the Japanese government. If this will solve the problem completely is perhaps not certain, since Japan has to cope also with structural problems. And if those structural problems are not tackled at the same time, uncertainty about the success will remain.
We're just going to zoom in on the yen itself here. We've got a graph of the yen against the dollar. What can you tell us a little bit about this particular graph? This is, by the way, covering the last 3 months, Jean.
Well, there's quite a surprising trend, in fact, because the Japanese economy in all its components has not been doing very well. Consumer confidence was very sluggish, indebtedness very huge, industrial production down, and yen strengthening is certainly not the image of what investors and the financial world would expect. I do only explain this by the very weak performance of the US economy and the European uncertainty about Greece and Mediterranean countries, because the strength of the yen for me against US and euro on pure economic factors is unexplainable to me.
Looking ahead to 2013, China's relationship with Japan and vice versa over the islands at the moment are kind of could cause perhaps further problems for Japan into 2013, not just politically in the image that they have to the rest of the world, but can it cause issues financially as well for Japan?
I think Japan will try to play down the conflict. It's in the short-term interest, at least, because a lot of their production capacity is today overseas, located overseas, and a huge part of it in China. So it's in Japan's short-term interest to solve this problem or to ignore it if they can.
So I'm right then in that sense that they will, because it could potentially harm them financially. You know, we've got the situation where we've got Japan exporting and China's a big business partner. If you think they will want to try and quell this as quick as possible, because it will hurt them financially.
Certainly.
And how do you see into 2013 this relationship? Do you see it getting better, and do you see that coupled with maybe further stimulus measures by the Bank of Japan, of course, if they decide to actually implement this amount? Do you think further stimulus measures plus a better relationship with China can help bring the Japanese economy out of the recession we're seeing at the moment?
I do not see a better relationship with China. I think 2013 will be a year of still minor incidents because, as you know, the LDP is a bit more right than the former government was. But I do not think this will affect really the business. Japan will be very cautious not to get frontally in problems with China.
It's incredible just to think that only in my childhood, you know, everything coming out of Japan, you know, electronics, it was you know, the place to get everything, the place to buy it was Japan, and now we're seeing a complete shift, as you said earlier, that a lot of the products are now overseas.
Well, being produced overseas doesn't mean that the quality is less, because the quality control of the Japanese is still within the plants and the factories. The problem is that Japan lost production capacity inside the country, and this is one of the problems the government will have to solve also.
Okay, Jean-Pierre, thank you very much for coming back into the studio and talking about Japan with us.
You're welcome.
That's all we've got time for at the moment on Dukas Copy TV. Stay with us though, we'll have a whole selection of interviews and further updates, and don't forget to check out the Geneva Forex event broadcast, which we've just put up online. But until next time in the studio, goodbye.